You recently, I mean your organization recently put out a press release urging the government to exempt Canadian veterans from the effects, the impacts of program review. Why do you think that they should do that?
Well, it's our primary concern that if the government is going to go through program review, and it probably has to go through program review to look at the fiscal situation of the country, that the veterans who voluntarily served on behalf of the nation and willingly went to places like Afghanistan, that those veterans, if they're in need of assistance, should not have that assistance taken away by a program review. Now, we understand that the program review has been asked by each one of the departments that they do a 5% or a 10% analysis of how they would like how they would see cutting their programs. What we're saying, and it follows on after we visited the American Legion this August, when President Obama actually spoke in front of the American Legion and promised them that he would not have any of the fiscal programs cut on the backs of veterans. And we're saying the same thing, is that any of the programs that are out there are necessary for our veterans. They need that assistance. And to cut the programs by 5 or 10% would mean that the programs wouldn't be available, or the full scheme of the programs wouldn't be available for our veterans. So they would miss that opportunity and not have that assistance that they need.
Is there a possibility they could make those kinds of cuts without affecting the current level of benefits just because there are fewer veterans receiving those benefits?
Well, I think in their demographic studies they've already gone through some of the analysis to say that by just pure demographics of the veteran population, they can see some program review actually diminishing for some of the benefits that are needed out there. Now, of course, the demographics could prove wrong. So if the demographics prove wrong, then of course the government's going to have to go back to the Treasury Board and seek the monies necessary to be able to make sure that those programs are still available, that they have guaranteed to those veterans. Now, the 5 to 10% synopsis would be over in addition to what they've already done with the demographic review. So, I mean, you have people out there now that are saying they're going to cut so many millions out of the program just based on the demographics. We're also very concerned that the 5 and 10% could be more drastic and severe and actually hurt existing programs that are needed under the new Veterans Charter, for example, right now.
When you talk about the money that would be cut because of demographics, there was a story just recently that said something like $226 million has been targeted over the next 2 years. Is that strictly the demographics?
That's a demographic study that they've done. From our understanding, it's a full demographic study. It's not something that is new. It's something that they've looked at as it's natural. The veteran population is diminishing. It's attrition. So there has to be some sort of give in the programs, and I think that 200 and some odd $1 million is just that, is the demographic shift. So if the demographics prove wrong, I mean, we have our own demographics here, particularly with the newer veterans, veterans from Afghanistan and serving members of the Canadian Forces. Our demographics are proving that we're busier than we were before in the benefit advocacy world and in assisting young Canadian Forces members in getting the benefits they need from Veterans Affairs. So there may be a turnaround. I don't think we've seen the end of it yet.
So those you don't necessarily accept that the $226 million reflects a legitimate cut that can be made based on demographics?
No, not necessarily, but I mean, the demographics will prove out, and the government will have to be flexible enough in their review to understand that those demographics may not prove out to what they wanted to, and they may have to go back and put more money back into the programs.